if you're looking for an intricate Euro game all about space exploration, then you want to check out SETI. Let's take a look at how this game plays. In this game, players are trying to earn the most points by taking various actions on their turns over the course of 5 rounds. Players will take one main action per turn, and then they can do any number of free actions throughout their turns as well, before, after, or even during their main action. Main actions that players can take are to play a card. If they want to play a card, they will pay the cost in credits on the card and then take the main action that is on the white portion of the card there. Some of the cards will have missions, so a conditional mission will sit in front of them until they've met that condition, and then they will earn the reward there and set it aside. Some of them have end game scoring, and then some of them will also have things that they can do as they do those actions during the game. So if they mark signals, for example, for this one, they'll mark it with one of their little player markers, and then they will get those rewards throughout. And again, once they complete them all, they can set that aside in case they have anything at the end of the game that will score those. They can also launch a probe. When they launch a probe, they will pay 2 credits and launch that probe out on Earth, and then as a free action, they can spend energy to move that probe around the map. Whenever they visit planets, they will get publicity. There are also cards that can help them move their probes around as well. If they are on a planet, they can pay a cost of credits and energy, or just energy, to either orbit or land respectively on the planet that they are on. And that will be on this board over here. So they'll take their probe and go to whichever planet they had been on. So if I was on Mars, I could orbit this planet, which would get me these rewards, or I could land on this planet, which would get me some different rewards. If you have a certain technology, you may also be able to land on the moon of a certain planet that you were on, which will get you various different rewards as well. Another action players can do is scan, which is scanning in the sector that the Earth is in, and to do so they will just replace the leftmost data and put one of their player pieces in there instead, and they'll collect that data on their player board, and that will help them do the next action. Players can take the analyze data action if they are able to fill up all of the top slots specifically on their computer track here. They can do the addition of putting the data out as a free action on their turn, and once they're all filled in, they will wipe those, and then that will help them get some of the blue traces of life to put out for aliens, which we will go over shortly. The next main action this player can take is to buy a tech. They can spend 6 publicity to research one of the techs that are here. They can have 2 of the same at any point, but if they do not have the tech, they can take one of these off of the board and then place it on their player board in its appropriate slot. They will also get them an immediate bonus of some kind. They're different for each tile in each stack, which could be publicity, energy, or maybe even points, maybe even data. And then players can, again, put those on their board, which will enhance different abilities and just let them kind of break some of the rules that other players might still be following if they don't have that tech. The last main action that players can do is simply to pass. When they're going to take a passing turn, they can still do free actions, as it still will count as their turn. And then they'll just have to discard down to 4 cards. They might have to rotate the solar system if they're the first player to pass in a round. And then they'll get to draw a card out of the most recent stack for the next round of cards, which will have one more than the number of players, so every player will get some choice there. So earlier I mentioned traces of life for discovering aliens. So once all of the traces of life have been discovered for an alien, you will flip this alien board over. It does start out face down during the game, and that will just give players some new locations to be able to orbit, land on planets, and then also just take some other of the various rewards for different actions that they're taking. Some of the aliens will have other ways that they will adjust the game. They might have different scoring. They might have different ways for you to get cards and have different missions on those cards or different abilities on those cards as well. They're all a little bit different, and 2 out of 5 available aliens are used for each game. The game lasts, again, over 5 rounds, and the player with the most points wins. There's definitely a lot going on in this game. It's a pretty hefty rule set. It's a pretty hefty teach. It's going to take a while to kind of get into the flow of things. Your first game is probably going to be pretty long, especially if you are playing at that full player count. But there's a lot of interesting things going on. I think there's a lot of good decision space with if you decide to kind of go for probes or go for the tech to enhance your player board, or just try and like farm cards to get different abilities or missions. There's definitely a lot of avenues to kind of take, but it also kind of comes down to certain decisions you make might gear your strategy because you might not have access to a lot of cards. I definitely found myself in my first play being very unable to kind of get enough resources for everything that I wanted to do. I didn't have credits one round, I didn't have energy another round, I didn't have any cards another round. So it definitely is a lot of give and take with your own decisions about what you are even able to do. You might really have a strategy going in of wanting to do a certain thing, but you might not be able to kind of bring that to fruition if you don't have the necessary resources. Kind of with that, players are going to pass at different times during the game, which can make it seem like if you pass too early, you're kind of missing out on things. But if you use all your resources early, you're going to have no choice other than to pass. So it's really a balancing of all the different elements of the game in between all of those different main actions that you can take. I did think that even because you are making those decisions and you are going to have, like I said, a longer first game, I did think that the game was a little bit too long at that full player count. But with less players, there's a little bit of neutral tokens that go out on the board, but it does kind of make for a little bit of a quicker game, which can sometimes be preferable. So it really depends on how many players that you like to play with. But overall, again, there are a lot of interesting decisions to make. There's a lot of different strategies or different paths that you can take over the course, especially over the course of 5 rounds. You can kind of even change your strategy midway through. But a lot of cool things going on. If you really like space exploration theme, then this game is definitely going to be up your alley. But you can check out my full thoughts on the blog today to decide if this one's for you.